All right, welcome back to the Young Turks. Now, my favorite story of the day, although it is totally unfortunate, it's my favorite simply because it's the most telling. These are the stories that you learn from, okay? So, what is it? Eric Schneiderman, who is the New York Attorney General, is not accepting a deal where Bank of America and 3 other major banks would pay out $20 billion for how they have mishandled the servicing of their mortgage operations, okay? So now they've done many things wrong here, but this is one facet of what they did wrong. They struck a $20 billion deal. The problem is, in that deal it says that they will then have basically amnesty for all that they have done wrong in regards to those mortgages and the mortgage securities. Now, Schneiderman is leading the effort to say, hey, you know what, that's a bad idea. Why are we giving them blanket amnesty when we didn't even investigate the other fields where they might have done things wrong, where we know almost certainly that they did massive things wrong, right? Now, the rest of the government doesn't like this. And Schneiderman has now led a revolt where Massachusetts, Nevada, and Delaware are all saying, the attorney generals in those places are saying, hey, you know what? I think he's right. I think we need to investigate this fully before we let these major banks off the hook. And of course, the size of the screw up for the mortgage securities is in the hundreds of billions. So, the banks aren't going to agree to a $20 billion payout if they think their liability isn't much, much larger, right? But of course, as usual, here comes the American federal government to help out the banks. So they're putting a world of pressure on Schneiderman. There's a great article in the New York Times about it. They have sent in people from the Justice Department, from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York specifically, and from the Housing and Urban Development to go in and talk to Schneiderman and say, hey, you know what? Come on, man, let's make a deal. So the main guy from HUD is Sean Donovan, and he was trying to persuade, or she was trying to persuade him to make sure that they get the deal. And they use the same exact language as the Justice Department did. They say, well, you know, it's not that we care about the banks. It's that the homeowners are suffering every day and you're holding it up. We need to get relief to those homeowners right away. That is our only concern. It's funny how they've all have the same exact message, all those different departments that are trying to get the one guy fighting the banks to stop fighting the banks. But it's for the homeowners. I'm going to get to a revealing quote in a second. By the way, Citigroup, JP Morgan, Chase, and Wells Fargo are also involved. They sent in, so to give you a sense of what the problem is, by the way, the clause in there that they like is that there is a, quote, comprehensive liability release, meaning we release them of all liability going into the future, which is, by the way, outrageous. No deal should have that, no matter what the price is, right? So, but we find out what their real motivation is when we see Catherine Wild, member of the board of Federal Reserve Bank of New York, talk to Schneiderman. And she says that her interaction with him was not unpleasant. Others describe it as very unpleasant. Basically, they sent her in to yell at him at a funeral. Former governor of New York had died. He's coming out of the funeral, and she accosts him. So what's her motivation? Well, she's on the record. Here's what she had to say, quote, "It is of concern to the industry that instead of trying to facilitate resolving these issues, you seem to be throwing a wrench into it. Wall Street is our Main Street. Love them or hate them. They are important, and we have to make sure we are doing everything we can to support them, unless they're doing something indefensible." And there we have it. That's the real answer. Okay, that's not talking about homeowners. That's talking about the industry and how important Wall Street is and how the government's job is to help support them, unless they're doing something indefensible, which is, by the way, exactly what this is about. That's why Schneiderman is holding it up, because it's indefensible that they robbed all these people for all this time. Do you know that in New York, again, Schneiderman's home state, the New York Post did a study where they found out in their little random sampling that of the houses that were being foreclosed, 92% of them did not have proper documentation. So nobody even knows in some of the cases whether the people own the bank actually owned that house, whether they got the mortgage in the right way, whether they were foreclosing on the right house. 92%. Yeah, that's what I would call indefensible. So Schneiderman, let me tell you something, man. Don't listen to any of these clowns from the Obama administration or from anywhere else. They are 100% in league with the banks. Their view is the view of Tim Geithner, which is that as go the banks, goes the economy. That view is totally wrong, and it is designed to get more and more money into the hands of very few corporate executives at those banks, which, by the way, in 2009 and 2010 made record profits and took home record bonuses again. Okay? And that's what they're trying to protect, not the homeowners and not anyone else. Oh, please get with the, oh, we're trying to get the homeowners help as soon as we can. My ass you are. No, you're trying to help the same guys you've been helping all along, whether it was the Bush administration or the Obama administration. You're helping the bankers. Schneiderman, fight, man. You keep fighting. And if they come back at you, you tell them, hey, you know what? Here's what I might do instead. I don't have that clip. You know what? Release the Kraken on him. Okay, look, I told you it was telling. The reason that it's telling is you see the world of pressure. And, you know, you get into the details of the article, and they're like, hey, man, look, you're not helping anyone. You're not making any friends. Be a good guy. Every line you read between the lines, play ball, play ball. Hey, if you want to advance up the career ladder, this is not what you do, okay? You make sure that, you know, you help out the banks and the bankers. I love that he's fighting him. Oh, please, please don't buckle. All right, now, let's go to to give you a sense of the depths of the problem, right? Let's go to an ex-Moody's derivatives analyst. His name is William Harrington, and he just wrote a 78-page letter to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, Moody's, you know, is one of the rating agencies, and their job is supposed to say, hey, you know what, this security is AAA or it's BBB or whatever it is, safe, not safe, etc. Now, all the toxic mortgage securities, which were junk, which the analysts at these companies at the lower levels said were junk, all of a sudden magically got AAA ratings. So why did they do that? And what we've been telling you all along is because the management at those companies said, hey, you know what? We don't care what the analysts think. We're going to get paid based on saying these are AAA, so trust me, they're AAA. Now we know for a fact that that is absolutely true. That's what happened. So in his letter, William Harrington explains management wanted to make more money, and that's exactly why they made sure to pressure us to simply change our ratings when it wasn't true at all. And here's part of his letter. Quote, the track record of management influence in committees speaks for itself. It produced hollowed out, collateralized debt obligation opinions that were at great odds with the private opinions of the committees and which were not durable for even a short period after publication. In other words, we were lying through our teeth because we wanted to get the money from the banks, who wanted to get money from these toxic securities, even though everyone knew they were full of crap. Gee, should we wrap up the investigations and make sure that the banks only pay $20 billion? I can't tell. What do you think? Why are they in such a panic to pressure Schneiderman to fold up shop? I can't tell. Can you tell? Okay. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to take a break because this is a very important story we got coming up next. It's about the payroll taxes, and we've got a topsy-turvy world here where the Republicans want more taxes and the Democrats want less taxes, but we'll explain why. And that critical detail, it tells you the whole story. All right, welcome back to the Young Turks. Jay and Anna with you. Anna, I have a confession. I got a really nice email today. Now, I've gotten a million emails. They're all great. I love you guys. They keep us going. They really do. But today, somebody who said they were not into politics and that they discovered us on YouTube, and that we had a nice way of explaining things so they were simple and you got a sense of it, and now they love politics. And it's interesting because it's, you know, so many of the bad stories, et cetera, but at least they understood it, et cetera. And it made me feel good about what we do. And, you know, it's a beast to put the show together, right? And we try to do our best every day. It was nice to hear that. And I'm feeling up today, Anna. One, partly because of that, but mainly because the Libya thing actually has me jazzed.
It should have you jazzed. It's great news. And I'm happy with the U.S.'s role in it. You know, even though it's a minimized role, I think that it's a good role for us to have.
Yeah.
Rather than a leadership role in that situation, which would have been disastrous for us personally.
I have a slight part of that story that I didn't tell you, which I'm going to tell you in a second. But new pictures are in. Let's show you the pictures. So this is, first of all, the Fantastic Four, they're calling it. That's Obama on the right, Sarkozy from France, Cameron from the UK, and then actually Susan Rice gets a nice shout out. Our UN ambassador for the United States. Those are that's the new flag of Libya and those are of course rebels that put that sign up. But the second picture I love. Look at that. Wow,
that's amazing.
And they said that Tripoli was Gaddafi's stronghold. Lasted for about, and I don't even think it lasted a day. Okay, once they got to the doors of Tripoli, it was over. Okay, and I love seeing that, man. Now, look, it's a complicated picture, and then people are right to say, hey, who's going to be next? How are they going to do the government? Is it definitely going to be a democracy? Who are the rebels? Those are all good questions, and they have to be asked, right?
Right.
That being said, the longest dictator in the Middle East, 42 years, a comical character, an Austin Powers-like character, who, by the way, was responsible for great terrorism throughout the world, including downing, of course, the Pan Am flight that killed so many of our citizens, is gone. It's a great day for us. It's a much greater day for Libya and for democracy, for the whole world. So I'm super jazzed about it, and it's put me in a good mood. Now, by the way, the great number of stories we didn't get to. Mondays are great for members-only post games, because in the post game I'll give you a great detail on some of these other issues. Now, one last thing on Libya before we go on to Anna's stories, which are also massively political. Okay, is that I was in favor of the Libya policy. We talked about it in the first hour, and I'm proud that it worked out with in the way that we had hoped that it would. Right. One thing that I was reading in a different context is that Obama administration had said to reporters that in Libya we were leading from behind, okay? And that is what we were doing, and it was the right strategy. But I wish they hadn't said it that way.
Yeah, leading from behind sounds like we were almost weak and we didn't want to take the leadership role in this situation. But to be honest with you, the way the Obama administration handled this situation in Libya was the best possible way that they could have handled it. I was so scared that they'd want to take the leadership role. Okay, right now we're fighting two wars, no end in sight. Okay, our economy is completely shot. We're in a bad situation. If we would have inherited that situation, if we would have taken the leadership role, then it would be our responsibility to build a democracy in that country, which is a huge job.
It's a big undertaking. I totally agree with you. But it's ironic that in a policy that I agree with, we come up, or the Obama administration used a phrase that unfortunately describes them really well. Obama believes in leadership from behind. Like, you guys all get out ahead of me, okay? The entire American people, progressives, whoever else, everybody else get out from ahead. And I'll lead from behind, like, oh, which way is the crowd going? Which way is it going? And, and it's interesting because I'm not sure people realize, well, maybe they did, given the criticism, how bold the Libyan decision was, ironically, right? That was one of his boldest decisions. Part of why I agreed with it. It was,
yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, even though it was spun in a different way. But and again, it's just the last piece of this irony, there's a lot of irony here, is that even though he leads from behind in most instances, and that shows no courage, in this case, leading from behind was courage to say, you know what, I'll take on the risk even though I can't control the outcome as well as I'd like to. And if this thing drags on for a long time, which is entirely possible, I'm going to get massively blamed for it from both sides.
Right.
That's why it was a courageous decision. All right, so now we move forward.
All right. The Alternet reported on this really incredible story that I think we should bring attention to. And it has to do with a 2009 Department of Homeland Security report that was published by Daryl Johnson, who was ahead of a part of Homeland Security that focused on right-wing extremism in this country. Now, since 2009, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI wanted to focus in on right-wing extremism because we elected our first black president, and of course you have a couple right-wingers that might want to do something violent because of it, right? So they're like, okay, there might be a threat here. Let's do the research, let's release the report, and let's see if our government does anything about it.
Right, and I want to remind everybody, there were already significant threats and a plot stopped against Obama's life while he was campaigning. So it's not like they're right after he came in, they're like, oh, let's investigate these groups out of nowhere.
Right.
They already had significant concerns about the plots that were planned against the president.
Right. So in 2009, the Department of Homeland Security published a report called Right-Wing Extremism, Current Economic and Political Climate Fueling Resurgence and Radicalization and Recruitment. Okay. After they released that report, which, by the way, was very credible, it turns out that right-wing members of the media and right-wing extremists gave them an extremely hard time. Okay, you have Rush Limbaugh talking about how, oh, the Department of Homeland Security is saying that all conservatives are right-wing extremists that want to destroy the country. You know, you have people like Sean Hannity completely twisting and turning the report to make it seem like it was this crazy biased report that had no credibility whatsoever.
And we cover that a lot on the Young Turks. And what they were trying to do is substitute right-wing extremists for just right-wing. So the attempt by the right-wing media was to say, you see that he comes into office and immediately he's trying to shut down the right wing in this country, the political right wing in this country, which is not what the report was about at all. If you actually read the report, it was about extremists who were actually plotting violence.
And extremism in the United States is a growing issue, and it's a growing problem that we need to tackle, or else we're going to have all of these severe problems and all these cases where innocent people are getting killed. So what did the report find? The report found that anti-government patriot groups, okay, these are the right-wing extremist groups, have increased significantly since 2008. So in 2008, there were 149 of these groups. However, by 2010, there were 824 of these groups.
In 2 years, a massive increase. But hey, let's not investigate them. God forbid we should look into extremist groups, unless they're Muslim, in which case we should hold congressional hearings like Representative King did from New York.
Just to focus on that for a second, right? When it comes to members of Homeland Security that are given the task of analyzing right-wing extremists, right now there are 0. Because this group got ousted from the Homeland Security Department. Okay. However, when it comes to analyzing Islamic extremists, there are 25 members.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're Muslim, they're coming to get you. You're a right-wing extremist and your numbers have just, what, more than quadrupled? There isn't a single person in Homeland Security whose job is to organize fighting these guys.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's what Daryl Johnson talks about. He's sending out red flags. He I believe, is a former Republican. And he's saying,
yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's like, look, this isn't a partisan thing. These guys are dangerous. They might kill people. Red flag, red flag. Can we look into them? And they're like,
no,
not
but
so much.
But they're so scared of conservatives in the media criticizing them and twisting their words. They're so scared that they're like, oh my God, we have to disown this report, and we also have to get rid of every single person that was involved in doing the research for this report and writing this report. They ousted them out of the Department of Homeland Security. It's freaking ridiculous. So look.
But to be fair, I mean, it's a Republican administration, so wait a minute. It's a Democratic administration. By the way, self-preservation, shouldn't that kick in at some point? These guys are looking to do you harm physically. At some point, don't you say, hey, you know what? We should put a couple of guys on that.
No,
it's unbelievable, man. I mean, he does everything they asked for. Related story, Attorney General Eric Holder today saying that they will send poll watchers to Mississippi's Noxubee County, including Bolivar, Tunica, and Wilkinson. Why is he sending them there? Because there was a complaint that blacks were intimidating white voters in that area. Now, look, it was proven to some degree back in 2005. I say to some degree because within the Civil Rights Department, staffers were complaining that the Bush administration only looked at this one case where it was alleged that a Democratic African-American legislator intimidated white voters and did not look at any of the other cases where black voters were intimidated, right? So, but since it's already on the record and it was quote unquote proven, and hey, look, and if it's a real problem, they should definitely send poll watchers. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about priorities, right? I'm talking about what do you emphasize, right? So Holder comes in, they pressure him. That's why I brought it up in this context. They're like, how come you haven't done anything about this yet? We need poll watchers. Poor white people are being intimidated by blacks all over the country, okay? So what does Holder do? Of course, poll watchers to this district, okay? Now, look, if it's the only thing that we have as evidence that the Justice Department has twisted priorities, you say, actually, then it's no problem at all. You got a problem with there? I don't care which race it is. Absolutely go and investigate, make sure that nobody's getting intimidated. No question about that, right? But where is the reverse of that? Where are they investigating Republicans? What happened to the U.S. attorneys that Bush put into place specifically to make sure that they went after so-called voter fraud, which a Republican attorney general in New Mexico said, I investigated for years. I couldn't find a single case. They wanted me to bring cases that didn't exist. Obama kept those guys in place. And so what has he done to talk about, disenfranchising black voters, Latino voters in all these different states? Not a damn thing. And the minute the Republicans complain and the right wing complains, he's like, oh, jump, how high? How high do you need me to? Eric, you're my guy, go, right? Eric Holder will always do it. By the way, who did Eric Holder let off the hook? Ted Stevens, okay, the Republican senator from Alaska, was crooked as it could be. He said there was problems with the prosecution. Again, if you do look at it just within that context, if there's problems with the prosecution, I don't care who it is, you let him go. Okay, no problem, right? But where are the other things? Where are him going after both Republicans and Democrats? Who is he toughest on? You want to know? John Edwards. They came after him, and you have to look at the details of it, okay? In that John Edwards case, I think everybody agrees, Edwards was horrible. And in fact, I thought him spending money that people gave to him on his mistress was hideous. But that's not what they charged him with. They charged him with some obscure thing about how he took money from his donors who knew that they were giving it to him for his mistress when he shouldn't have taken it. Constitutional law professors were like, you brought this case? They're like, legally, this case makes no sense. Politically, it made a lot of sense because the Obama administration could turn around and go, you see that, Republicans, we're on your side. We are crushing John Edwards, we're crushing the Democrats, we're letting the Republicans go, we're sending poll watchers into to protect whites, we're not sending in poll watchers to protect blacks. If you're disenfranchising black voters, have at it, Hoss. Right-wing terrorist groups, we're not even looking into them. Muslims, we got 25 guys on their case. So when you look at the totality of it, it's a horrible record of appeasement and one that doesn't show any success. So
No
at the end of all
success
that
at all.
appeasement, did it work? Are the Republicans or the right wing in favor of Obama,
No.
even 1%?
0%. They still criticize him. They still put him down. They're never going to be on his side, and it's stupid. By the way, just to go back to the story about the right-wing extremism in the country. So that report was published, and then after the conservatives didn't like it, they disowned it, right? After they disowned it, let me tell you about several cases of right-wing extremism in this country. In May 2009, an anti-abortion zealot murdered Dr. George Tiller in Kansas. In June 2009, neo-Nazi James Van Brunn murdered a security guard at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. In March 2010, 9 members of a Michigan militia were charged with seditious conspiracy and attempted use of weapons of mass destruction in connection with an alleged plot to murder police officers. On May 20th, 2010, 2 West Memphis, Arkansas police officers were shot to death during a routine traffic stop by a father-son duo of sovereign citizens, a group of U.S. residents who believe the government has no authority over them.
That is a small part of the list, okay? The list goes on and on. Those sovereign citizens are a menace. They believe in basically, again, anarchy. They don't think the government has any control over them at all. And if they get into a confrontation with the police, they are ready to shoot. They are, unfortunately, literally locked and loaded. But should we investigate those guys? No, come on. They're right-wingers. It's okay. Let them go. So stupid. Look, do we arrest the guys after they've shot the cops? Yes. Okay. But can we look into it? You know that there's still the Obama Justice Department, Glenn Greenwald wrote about this recently, but you could read it anywhere because it's true. They're still looking into those left-wing groups.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
You remember when the Bush administration was looking into vegans and the Quakers and the peaceniks and all that? Those people literally say that they are ideologically opposed to violence. Like, let's look into them just in case, right? These guys that are ideologically in favor of violence, let's let them go. Okay. Now, look, the Obama administration, to be clear, to my knowledge, is not going after vegans and Quakers. Okay, but they are still looking at groups that are in favor of peace. Okay, because you know how dangerous those guys are.
Right.
And if you're pro-Palestinian, forget about it. They got to file this thick on you. Okay, because being pro-Palestinian obviously means you might be connected to terrorists. By the way, the president and President Bush's policy was also that the Palestinians have their own state. But if you agree with President Bush and President Obama, we got to file on you. Okay, but the actual right-wing extremist groups, no files, 0 people working on it.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to let you know whether or not teachers in California can bash Christianity and creationism and get away with it. It's a surprising story.
Twisty twist.